I'm Marco Sassoli. I'm professor at the University of Geneva for international law, and in a former life I have been a delegate of the International Committee of the Red Cross for 13 years. Well, I think the job has changed of a humanitarian worker. It is much more professionalized today. The situation in the world has changed and is changing, and therefore I think it is essential to uh, uh, think about how to best deliver humanitarian assistance and protection. And perhaps it's also important to understand that what counts is not the input but the output, the impact on the persons benefiting from humanitarian action, while perhaps previously it was much more to say, okay, what do we have to do and not what should they get. And then finally, I think, but this may be because I'm a professor now for 10 years, it's important to reflect about it for training purposes of future humanitarian workers. Well, I think the most difficult thing to accept and to understand is impartiality. That impartiality doesn't mean indifference to the suffering of the victims, nor indifference to the justice or injustice of a cause, uh, but it is an essential means to get the humanitarian action, assistance and protection over to the beneficiaries. And I also think it is important that the public and also the victims understand the limits of humanitarian work. Otherwise, they will be necessarily disappointed and perhaps take the wrong choices. And we also have to avoid that humanitarian work is seen as the solution to all problems in the world. I mean, the problem now in Gaza will not be solved by humanitarian action, but humanitarian action can do a little, hopefully, to alleviate. And finally, I think that at least humanitarian workers should have a word in all this, because the organizations for whom they work inevitably have fundraising purposes and therefore will describe a slightly too rosy picture of humanitarian work, which then again creates illusions, disillusions, and so on. Obviously, protection is only possible through teamwork, through the work of an organization. But I think the individual can have the human contact, not only with the victims, but also with the perpetrators. And I think to protect victims, it's even more important to have a good contact with what I call the perpetrators. To be ready to listen, to be, I think, humble, and to give an example, not to be a kind of car dealer who wants to sell something, but to really, not through words, but through one's own attitude, to bring over the message that one is really only concerned about the victims